I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong. I just haven't been feeling myself all day.
Yep, you've got a fever. Congratulations, Mrs. Reed. You've earned yourself a couple of days of bed rest.
And that's how I got to Middelburg. At the end of the war, I had built up quite a nice little practice in the town, and it was convenient for me then to purchase Levitt's practice, and I started off there, and we stayed there for 16, 17 years. I'd like to tell you a few interesting stories of my practice in Middelburg. Not only was I a doctor of medicine, I had to act as a veterinary surgeon, a confidant for people who had problems, financier at times, all sorts of things. But what amused me most was my veterinary surgery. On several occasions, when the circus came to town, I was called out for emergencies. One I shall never forget is when I was called by Mrs. Pagel, who was a tough German woman, to come and stitch a llama. And I said, "Stitch a llama? How do I do that?" She says, "We will show you. Come to the circus." I went to the circus, and there was this llama with a split lip. And I said, "Now what do you want me to do? How am I going to get up there?" She says, "I will show you." And she called the African helpers, and 6 or 8 of them held this llama down, the legs and the arm and the head. And the head was now level with me. And as I got up to put in the first stitch in the lip, I got this mouthful of gob, and my glasses were covered up with this spittle. And she said, "I tell you," she spit. I said, "But you didn't tell me in English." And she was talking in German, half German. I couldn't understand. She wanted me to approach from the side, not from the front. Anyway, we had a good laugh. A few years later, Mrs. Pagel was in town with her circus and called me and asked me to come and give a lion an enema. It was out of sorts. That is when I refused to give any assistance whatsoever. I was not a vet anymore. I was called out by this man who worked on the railways to say that his wife was having a baby. She had a bad time the previous birth and nearly died, and would I come out immediately? Being young and enthusiastic, I didn't waste any time. I packed the bags and off I drove. I was going to help her. And I arrived at the house, went to the bedroom, and there I found her lying on the bed, reasonably comfortable, no discomfort, chatting for a while, asking her questions, and she had no contractions during that time. After my examination, I said to her, "You're not going to have your baby for a few days. Tomorrow would be the earliest, or even the next day, if you continue having these weak contractions." And I told the husband that, and he was listening intently. Then he walked backwards, closed the door and locked it. And he would not open it, and he said, "Until the baby is born." And we sat there looking at each other. She didn't know what to do anymore. She said she's sorry about it, but her husband is mad at times. And what were we going to do? We then agreed together to tell him that the baby was coming. I made a mistake in my assessment, and that he must come in quickly with the boiling water, because you can't have a baby unless you've got boiling water handy, for sterilization. So I shouted this out to, what was his name? I shouted this out to him, and I said, "You better come in quickly with the hot boiling water, the baby's coming." The door was unlocked, and as he was putting down the hot water, I ran out. And we parted good friends. A friend of mine who farmed with pigs called me one day and asked me to come to his farm. When I asked him what the problem was, he said, "Just come and talk to me, Izzy. I need somebody to talk to." I said, "Roy, what is the matter?" And he wouldn't tell me. And eventually he said, "You remember my large white sow that I'd paid a lot of money for? This sow cannot produce the piglets, and I need help, and there's not a vet in town. They're all gone to the Rand Easter show in Johannesburg." When I got there, he explained to me what the situation was and that the only solution would be to do a caesarean section. I phoned my partner, Max Patz, in Middelburg. I said, "Max, you've got to come out with a midwifery bag and the anaesthetic bag. We've got a problem here at Roy's farm." He said, "Don't be mad. You can't do anything on the farm. Put the girl in your car, and I promise you, if she messes up on your seat, on the back seat, I will clean it up personally." I said, "Max, in that case, I'll have to phone the opposition." And that must have fired something, I don't know. He said, "Okay," and he came out. I won't go into detail as to how he discovered that it was a pig, but anyway, when we took him to the pig, he nearly shot us. The pig went to sleep. I snitched it open and discovered something that I didn't know before, that the pig hasn't got a single uterus. It's like a sausage. In each section there is a piglet. So I had to incise each one, remove the piglet, stitch it up, and it took quite a long time. The pig survived the operation, but there were no live pigs, and unfortunately developed pneumonia 2 weeks later and died.